So as you can see, I got the little router table, the Ryobi router table, up onto my bench. I did that off camera because if I was to injure myself, I didn't want to do that on tape. So anyways, I got it up here. As you can see, I just got some 4x4s down here on the base. This was just a temporary thing to do to wheel it around. Again, as I said, right now I'm just in the conceptual stage, just trying to see what works. And I feel like the whole finish part, making things look nice, that comes later. As I mentioned in a previous video, I was talking about, you know, wanting to use my dominoes more and doing that kind of work. Well, one of the things that I've run into with the domino, which it's not a problem, but it's just something that I wanted to sit down and take some time to kind of consider. Typically, it's difficult to actually mill lumber with just a planer, right? I don't do hand tools, at least at this season in the shop. I don't really feel like I have time for that. I feel like I need to kind of balance out production with actual, you know, just getting the end result in a short span of time. So I did have a small Porter cable jointer. I had it sitting on a tabletop. I was moving stuff around in the shop. I didn't have it bolted down. It fell, took a real heavy fall. As I think back, it probably still worked, but I threw it away because I know the guard was all smashed up or whatever the case would be. I didn't even think to look to get like a replacement part, or even I never even turned it on again to see if it worked. So that was just really foolish on my part. But anyways, and it was really small. It's a tiny joiner, right? It's only a 6-inch. And what I realized is I'm not super proficient at joining boards and getting boards milled up. But as I've lost my jointer, it's kind of helped me to realize that there's certain things you can't do properly or well without a joiner. A joiner is actually going to help you to get a 90-degree, you know, like take two faces and make them 90 degree to each other, and perpendicular in 90 degrees to one another. And when you have boards like that, then you can take it to the planer and plane, you know, your third side, and then to your table saw to get that fourth side, so that you have nice and squared lumber to work with. A lot of the things that I make end up looking kind of weird and wonky because, you know, if you have the rounded edges on your 2x4s, you're not going to get good tight seals. So, and I've tried it before. You take the domino, you do a plunge cut, and you put two pieces of wood together, and it doesn't look like a good joint. It doesn't look like something that is fitting for a domino, if you will. I mean, you spend so much money on a tool, and then you go and you end up with shabby work like that in the end. Why not just use pocket holes? And which is what I've been doing with everything. So as I talk about using something like the domino, that means that I need to get square lumber. So I actually gave myself several months. I can't remember how long ago, but I talked it over with the wife and I said, hey, I need to get another joiner. I was looking at a floor model. However, in my shop I'm limited to 110 volts, and so I looked at the Powermatic, the one with the helical head, the one with the straight blades or whatever. I think the straight blade was like $1,800. The helical head was $2,400. I looked at the Grizzly offerings. Some of those are on sale at this point in time. And then I also looked at the Home Depot rigid, it's got a shorter table, but it's like a floor model, and but it's only a 6-inch jointer. And I looked at that one. I also looked at the Jet, which is more of a bench top, but it actually came with the helical head, and that one was really expensive for what it was. It was a small jointer. I actually looked at it at Woodcraft, but and I couldn't find any reviews on it because I thought that would have been the better, the best of both worlds, because it was small, compact. It would have required more work, you know, like with in-feed and out-feed rollers to, you know, get longer boards done. But what I thought was that having the helical head would be quieter, and then also would produce smaller chips, which my rigid could handle. whereas having to have a dedicated shop solution, which I don't have at this time. So basically it was difficult to make a decision as far as a jointer, and I did order one finally, and I'll actually do an unboxing of that jointer in the near future. But that's what's going to lead towards me using the domino more, because I mean, you know, as I said before, you know, using the domino and then putting two just regular unfinished 2x4s together is just not cool. And then the other thing is too, I guess in theory you could use a table saw to like cut down your lumber to, you know, just cut off different sides, but my table saw doesn't have the depth, and I don't know if any have the depth to go the whole width of the long dimension of the 2x4, which is the 3.5 inches. And then on my battery powered saws as well, it just was it just drains my batteries. That's one of the reasons why I actually bought the TS75. However, you know, math you see, I didn't consider that there was no saw that was deep enough to cut a full, no track saw, let me be specific, no track saw that could cut a 2x4 3.5 inches deep. You know, because then what I could have done was that's why I bought my long 118 inch track. I was planning on basically taking a 2x4, building a jig to where I could set a 2x4 in it, put my long track on there, and then take like the TS75 and cut along there to actually joint the board on one side. But as I got to thinking it through, it won't cut all the way through, is what I know. And since it won't cut all the way through, it would require me to actually flip the board and do all kinds of other little finagling around, and in the end I may not be happy with the end result. I may have to lose a lot of material, excess material, which is just waste as far as that. So, and you know, you don't want to get a 2x4 and then have it down to being like 2.5 by 2.5, you know, what's the point or whatever. So you want to keep that wood. You know what I'm saying? And obviously things are going to be more structurally sound the thicker it is, versus if you actually, you know, cut a board down to, you know, to make it narrow or stock. You're not going to have that lateral stability. I mean, you're not working with steel here, you're working with wood. And so, especially because I was building shop furniture with heavy tools and so on and so forth. So I wanted that rigidity and that stability. And as far as cabinet making, let me go into that, because you can use the domino with making cabinets. Well, I mean, we know that wood prices was just off the Richter scale for a while there, and plywood is still, you know, on another planet. I mean, certain plywood sheets that I used to get for like, you know, $50-some or so, where, you know, they're like $90 now. And I want to grow in this craft, but I'm just not into wanting to waste premium materials, because where am I going to put it? Like if I make something and I fail and I mess it up, I don't want to just throw that out. I mean, you actually have to pay to take stuff to the dump. You know, you can't put all that in your regular trash, and that's just throwing money out the window. So luckily I went to my local Home Depot this week, and I see this CDX plywood is down to reasonable prices. I think during the height of this wood inflation period, it was like up over $100. It was actually more expensive than, you know, some of the finished veneered plywood, but it's down to 36 bucks. So I bought 3 sheets, and what I plan on doing with those 3 sheets are there's a couple things I want to do. One of the things, I want to actually make a cabinet from start to finish, and I have to do my research and find out what a actual what the normal dimensions are using the 32 millimeter dimensions or whatever. It's a simple Google search. I'll find that, lay out my plans and schematics, and actually go through my own form of a build video of making a basic cabinet with CDX plywood, because then I'm not wasting much money, and start to redo a lot of the shop furniture I have in here in a more cabinet style, as opposed to this, you know, exposed these exposed I don't know, shelves, if you will. So that's the next stage that I plan to start working with, and I'm only doing that now because the prices have come back down. You know, I feel more comfortable spending money on a tool that's going to hold more of its value, not particularly this Ryobi tool, I'm just touching a tool, than I do buying material that you're just gonna burn through or tear through. Like, you know, if you buy 100, I've heard people say that certain pieces of plywood is like $250 a sheet. All right, I'm not gonna buy a $250 piece of sheet or $250 sheet of plywood, jack it up because I didn't have my saw set properly or whatever, and just eat that cost over and over again. I'm in the learning stages, I'm in the practice stage, I'm in the training stage. But think about it, if a person goes off to say, whether you're in high school taking woodworking courses, or if you go to some kind of trade school, they have all the equipment already, right? So what I've done is I've created my own school. I have all the equipment to teach myself. All I have to do now is go on YouTube and buy books and read, how do I do this? How do I do that? You know, a lot of people, if you're not in a school, you know what I'm saying, you don't have access to the tools. So the ability to learn is just not there. And the other thing is as well, you know, like my daughters are starting to get a little bit older to where I can start to have them come out here in the shop and learn things, but not like this. I got to fix this. But essentially, I'm going to be the instructor for their woodworking learning. They're going to be, you know, I mean, I've seen people online, plenty of people, you got, you know, plenty of female woodworkers. I won't name any names that are building amazing things and doing great things. So I'm not going to put any limitations on my daughters because I see people already doing stuff. It's likewise, I see women on YouTube working on their cars. And so, you know, I'm not going to put any limitations on my daughters. I want them to learn these skills. I want them to have these attributes inside of them because I think it's going to help them in the future to choose a better mate when they do decide to choose a mate. And it's going to make them self-sufficient. They're not going to be reliant on what someone else tells them they should or shouldn't do. They'll be like, I can do that myself. So anyways, let me try to figure out how I'm going to fix this. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if I'm going to have to take it all apart. First, I need to find the wheels. So let me go ahead and mark this. Okay, so I probably didn't need to mark them all, but I did. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this top part off so that I can get to that bottom. I really like my Festool CSX, but close second is this Bosch drill or whatever. It's really nice as far as it's smooth. It's not the most powerful, but it's actually got a high degree of control, like the Festool CSX. Alright, we're starting to get to this out of the way now. Now, if you take a look here, you can see that I just threw together a simple frame because I had a bunch of just scraps. I just kind of made whatever pattern I wanted to give this a good degree of support and stability underneath it. This is how I make a lot of my shop furniture right now until I, like I said, get better. I'm kind of an all or nothing type of person, so even though I could use maybe the router and all of that stuff to kind of nicen things up, I kind of feel like if I can't even get the boards to look nice, like through planing and joining, then kind of what's the point? Let's just get the function part done. Let's just put this together, get the design idea in your head, and get the end result, which is getting this router table up off the floor and putting it in a position where I could use it. Many of my tools, I was not using them because they just weren't in a accessible place for me. And certain things, like I built a bandsaw stand, nothing nice, and I also built my, there's another stand around here somewhere, can't think of it, the drill press stand. And I put the tables at the height of this. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. I'm gonna have to raise those things up, so I'm gonna have to revisit those things and redo it to get a better outcome. So let's see how I'm gonna put these bolts in. I think I might try something new. I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to see. So what I'm going to try to do is find a drill bit, and even though these aren't tapered on the end, I'm going to see if there's a possibility of me forcing it in there. Grab the drill bit, some of them anyway, and what I want to do is see if it's possible for me to, because see, the bolt is too short to go all the way through the 2x4, so that's not gonna help me much, right? And if I bore a hole, I have to be able to get a wrench or a socket in there to bolt it on the other side, but that would be a solution. I think I may try that. So let me see if I can get this set up. Let me see if I can do what I'm thinking about in my head here. So I'm gonna take this off. Now what I want to do is I want to take my wheel, which is over here, and my carpenter pencil is back over there. Let me see if I can grab those real quick. Is I'm going to mark out the circles here, but I'm going to do a test location first, because like I said, when you making stuff for the first time, you don't really have to worry about things being perfect. You just do what you can do. Okay, so we've got our hole, right? Now I'm going to take this drill bit to make the screw hole. And the reason why I went down so deep is because the bolt is not that long. So let's go ahead and drill this out real quick. Let's give this a good drill here and see what happens. Alright, so we punched that hole right there. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is actually take that bolt, screw that I have. I'm going to put the wheel on like this, drop that in like that, and then the bolt goes on here. And then I'm able to use the socket to fit in that circle to tighten it up. So that's what I'm going to do. that one was drilled into a knot, so obviously it, you know, looked pretty bad. So let's get the rest of these. Hopefully they go better. I think I dulled a bit too because I think I hit a pocket hole. So. short. Hold on. I'll put some risers on here. I'll do this part tomorrow. And I may even want to raise this higher. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure.